Here's something I know about you, and I'll tell you about me, and that is that every single one of us wants to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. Every single one of us. There's something deep in you that says, I want to be a part of something bigger than me. It's the reason that you pay good money and sit in a stadium with 100,076 other people on Alabama days on Saturday, right? To cheer on the team, and another 100,000 plus outside the stadium. Why? They want to feel like, they're part of something bigger than themselves. 22 players on the field, but hundreds of thousands of people here in Alabama gathered to say, I want to be a part of something. I want to be a part of a winning season. I want to be a part of a championship. I want to say I was there. I was a part of that thing that's bigger than me. It's the reason that people volunteer and give money to political parties, because they believe that that person that's going to be elected or trying to be elected, they believe that they are going to enact something that's going to be bigger than them. And so they say, hey, I'll volunteer my time to help that candidate be able to be elected, because they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves. It's the reason, by the way, that you and I will volunteer at something like a soup kitchen or some kind of community service project, because we want to be a part of something bigger than ourselves. But here's the problem. Church used to be that. Church used to be a movement. In fact, in the book of Acts, the Christians were called the Way. And they were not a group of people who met at a certain place. They were a group of people who were caught up in this mission, in this vision of seeing the world turn upside down. And 12 disciples signed on with Jesus because they believed that Jesus was the Messiah that they had been praying for and hoping for. And they believed that he was going to turn the world upside down. That's what the church started out as, this group of ragtag, ordinary people who were changing the world. And lives, the book of Acts tells us, were being changed, transformed daily. Not just once a week, daily. Lives were being rescued and changed. And they got to be a part of something. So here's what I'm struggling with today. Has the church, which began as a movement, become a museum? Has the church, which began as a movement, become a museum, a place that we show up at to say, oh, wasn't it cool that Daniel got out of the lion's den and David, took down Goliath, and we study these old stories and we come almost like you go to a museum to say, wow, that's cool. Wow, it's really neat that Jesus died on the cross. Wow, it's really cool that all of these Bible characters were used by God to do some amazing things. And it's almost like we come like we would at a museum and say, oh yeah, that was nice. Man, God was really doing something back then. Wow, God really changed lives back then. Now we just gather and talk about what they did. And we look to people like me and say, hey, we're going to put money in the offering so you can do kind of some of the things that they're doing. But we are missing the whole way that the church changed the world was not through people like me, but it was through the average, ordinary people who were not professional clergy. They were people who said, I believe that God is who he said he is, and he's bigger than I thought he was, and he's inviting me to be a part of something bigger than myself. And I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not trying to slam everything. You guys know I have quickly become an Alabama Roll Tide fan, okay? But what I worry about is that we who know Jesus get more fired up and excited about an Alabama game than about someone's life being changed and transformed by Jesus. That concerns me. And again, I'm not putting down Alabama so that we can uplift Jesus. I'm just saying, do we even have as much passion and as much excitement about Jesus than we do about Alabama? Is it even on the same level? And I know that's convicting. It convicts me. I'm a huge sports fan. I love watching any kind of sport. Put it on TV. I love the competition. I love this. I've told you, I've been a New Jersey Nets, now Brooklyn Nets basketball fan for my whole life. And I remember going to a playoff game, and it was 3-3. So it was game 7. It was in New Jersey, and I somehow was able to get tickets to this game. And I remember sitting in that arena, and like the hype video came up on the thing, and it kind of was a replay of what's happened in the series. And it says, Indiana Pacers won game 1. New Jersey came back and won game 2. And it's like this whole thing. And then at the end, like it just got real quiet. And then there was this big sign that came on and it said, but this is our house. And this is our time. And this is our team, right? And everybody just goes nuts. Why? Because we're all feeling like we're a part of it. We all feel like we're a part of it. You ever hear people talk about their sport? They're like, well, what we need to settle this quarterback issue. Since when do you work for the team? Are you on the team? Are you a coach on the team? No, we need to figure out what's going on at quarterback, right? Why? Because there's something in you that wants to be a part of something bigger than you. And so I think it's great that you use we. And I would love for you to start talking about the ark that way. Rather than, I go to that church and your church. Say, this is our church. Amen. This is our house. This is our time. Right? That we get to be a part of something. And look, I'm not shaming you and I don't want to blame you. I'm not trying to make you feel guilty. I think we as the church as a whole have failed. And so what's happened is because we've not created a compelling mission, we've all filled it with other things because it's the way we're wired. It's like, church, if you're not going to give me a mission to shoot for, if you're not going to give me something to get excited about, if you're not going to give me some target to shoot at, well, then I'm going to take my passion somewhere else. So I don't blame you because you have to. You're wired this way. What I am pleading with you today, I'm just going to tell you where I'm going in this message, is I want to light a fire under you for the mission that Jesus has given us, because church, I think we are losing it, if not lost it. We've made church about how good the music is or how good the preaching is or how many people came and sat in seats, instead of saying how many lives are being changed, and do I get to be a part of that? So what I want to do is I want to take you to Jesus' locker room talk, Jesus' halftime talk. He had spent 3 years. He died on a cross. He rose from the dead. He's now hanging out with his posse, right? He's hanging out with the disciples. And they're talking together. They're spending time together. And then Jesus kind of drops this bomb on them, like, hey, guys, I ain't going to be around here much longer. What? No, you can't leave, Jesus. Just getting good. I mean, you rose from the dead. Come on. Like, now is our time. Now is our time for our victory tour. We're not dead yet tour. Come on. Come on, Jesus. And so Jesus says, come here. Gather around. Matthew 28, verse 18. He says, all authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. So he's setting them up, right? He's saying, guys, I'm not talking to you as your friend. I'm not talking to you as your rabbi. I'm telling you that what I'm about to say to you comes from the top. I have all authority in heaven and on earth. It's all been given to me. So here's what I want to do for you guys. Right? He's got the team. They're huddling in. Coach, tell us, what do we need to do? Yes, we know. We know you're the man, Jesus. We know. You got all authority, right? Look at what he says next. Verse 19. Therefore, he says, go and make disciples of all nations. No. Jesus, wait. Can I just interrupt you? we don't go. We pay you to go. We don't reach people. We go to church and we sing songs about reaching people. We give money so that others can reach people. But that's not our job. Jesus says, that's why we're losing, guys. It's halftime. That's why we're losing. Because you think, you're waiting for the next Bryce Young to come and lead us to victory, right? You're waiting for the one player that's going to make all the difference. And he says, no, that's not the way you win games. And it's definitely not the way you win championships. It's all hands in the middle. It's everybody pulling together to say, we're all going. Not just the select few, not just the people who have the gift of evangelism. Well, that's not my gift. My gift is sitting and going to Bible studies, but not actually doing anything. No, that's not a gift, gang. That's a cop-out. Jesus says to his followers, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. Guys, I'm not leaving. I'm leaving, but I'm not, right? I'm going to be with you always. And thousands of years from now, there's going to be guys preaching this commission, and I'm going to be with them too. Because we don't do this alone. You don't do this in your power. You don't do this in your strength. I'm the one who still changes lives, but I'm going to do it through you. I'm going to let you be a part of this. Now, it sounds like he's given us a lot of missions there. Because it's like, wait, am I making disciples? Am I going? Am I teaching? Am I baptizing? What is it? So it's kind of really difficult in the English language to do this. So I want to just kind of show you in the Greek language, which is where this was originally written, the language it was originally written in. There's really only one verb in this whole commission, and there's three participles. And the participles, I don't really know much about grammar, but the participles essentially support how the verb is being enacted. So the one verb is this: go make disciples. That's the verb. Make disciples is the verb. Now, how do we make disciples? How do we make disciples? Okay, so make disciples, that's our key. Then how do we make disciples? And I'm going to kind of give you the Greek translation of this. If you can put that up there, Kathy. It says, as you are going. Okay, next one. Next slide. Next slide. One more. All right, there we go. Therefore, this is what it would literally say. It's all the participles are the ing words. As you are going, make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, and teaching them to obey. So the main thing that Jesus is saying to his disciples and to you and I who are followers of his, he says, I want you to make disciples. Well, Jesus, how do we do that? Well, as you're going, as you're living your life, as you're doing your day-to-day stuff, I want you to be in the process of helping find out where people are and meet them there, and then walk with them as they become who they need to be. Well, how do I do that, Jesus? Well, once you're going and you're spending time and you're building relationships with these people, well, then you're going to help them baptize. Well, what does that mean? Well, baptism is simply identifying yourself with Christ. And so what you're saying, what Jesus is saying is, get to that person, talk with that person, do life with this person in such a way that eventually they're going to say, I'm in with Jesus. I got the t-shirt, I'm a part of it, I'm committed. I'm identifying. That's what baptize literally means, is to identify ourselves with Christ. So he says, I want you to help people identify with me. And then I want you to help teach them how to live the way I've called and created you to live. I want you to help come alongside people and help them live, and part of it's going to be the way you model your life, but also you're going to come alongside of them and you're going to speak into their life words of life and encouragement, and you're going to help them to figure out what it means to be the person that they've always been created to be. Or, as we're going to say in a couple of weeks, the me that they want to be and that you want to be. We're going to talk about what does that look like? How do I become the me that I want to be? or that I've always been made to be. Now, this was revolutionary in what Jesus was saying. Because again, in this system, not unlike today, there were rabbis, and those rabbis had followers who would go around with them, and those rabbis would teach. So very common, very similar to what we have today. But what Jesus was doing here was revolutionary. Jesus' Great Commission was revolutionary because he no longer limited it to the professionals. In fact, we don't have time to go there, but if you went to Ephesians chapter 4, what Paul says there is that God gave some to be pastors and teachers like me to equip the saints, that's the word for a believer in Jesus, to equip the saints to do the work of the ministry. But somehow we've missed this, and we say, oh, pastors, you're to do the work of the ministry, and we'll watch you. But that's not the way the church was set up. The church was set up to have shepherds, pastors, who would be equipping what we're doing in this message series, equipping you to actually live this out, to actually do the work of ministry. And that's not just, watching kids on a Sunday, which is a wonderful ministry, but it's talking about doing life with people, being involved in the mission. And what I'm trying to tell you today is you are already wired up to do this. You're already longing for it. And you've got a couple substitutes that are in the place because we, as people that stand on this stage like I do, I think we've failed you. I really do. I think we've failed to call you to what Jesus calls you to. And that is to be in the game. 100,000 people. What Jesus did with this sentence is he said to the stands, hey, it's your turn. We want you to play. So put down your beer and come on over, right? Come and play. We want you in the game. You're on the field. You get to be a part of watching someone's life change. You don't have to say, oh, pastor, you need to help my friend know Jesus. No, you can help your friend know Jesus. And then you get to see their life begin to change in front of you. And then guess what? You get to walk with them throughout their lives over the next months and years as they become who God made them to be. You get to be a part of that. You say, oh, that sounds scary. Guess what? When you start realizing that, I guarantee you, your prayer life will skyrocket. Because all of a sudden you'll be like, God, I don't know how to do this. God, what do I say? What is this? This person asked me this question. I don't know how to respond. God, what if they ask me these weird questions? And you're going to pray like you've never prayed before. Because you're going to need God like you've never been before. But good news, Jesus says, don't worry. I'm going to be with you. Always, to the very end of the age. You ain't doing any of this alone. Because number one, I'm going to be with you. But number two, I've called you to be a part of St. Mark right now, where you've got a bunch of other people. And we're going to all come hands in the middle. And we're going to say, all right, God, we're going to take you at your word. And we're going to believe you for big things. And we're going to be your team. But we need you to be the coach, Jesus. And we need you to tell us where we need to do and what we need to do. And you need to give us the plays. And you need to help us understand how we can make a difference. How we can be a part of that. He's transitioning to say it's not going to be a small group of 22 players who are going to win championships anymore. He mobilizes the whole church. And you say, well, could you help me? What is this passage talking about? What does it look like? So I'm going to give you the 3 steps that Jesus gives us, and I'm just going to try to extrapolate them a little bit, expand on them a little bit to hopefully put it in terms that you can grasp and take with you today, okay? So 3 steps that Jesus gives us to make a difference in the life of the world, in the life of your one. And the first one is we need to go to the one. We already talked about it, right? He says, as you are going, make disciples. So we got to go to the one, which means you have to intentionally place yourselves in places and situations where you're going to rub shoulders with and interact with the one. So like for me, I'm at church all the time, right? Because I work here, and so it's super extra challenging because I don't have normal environments where I can just hang out with people who don't know Jesus. And so I have to intentionally place myself in those situations. So I've picked different times through the day to take my dog Sky out for a walk because I know at different times of the day I'm going to meet different people because they all have their routines and they're bringing their dogs or they're just going for a walk or they're out in their yard. And so I love it because I can just kind of talk and I just say, hey, which house do you live in? How long you been here? Where you come from? I tell them, hey, I'm originally from New Jersey. I came from Minnesota just here in January. And we just start up a conversation. I'm not talking about Jesus. I'm just doing life. I'm just building a friendship. And the one of my ones who I'm going to invite on September 10th to be here is, person who lives right near my house. And just had a conversation this week with him. And just asking him lots of questions about his job and how he likes his job and how many hours he works a week. It's crazy how many hours he works. I'm just getting to know him. I'm just going to him. I'm just intentionally putting myself in places where I'm going to interact with people. But sometimes what I think happens, and again, I'm not criticizing St. Mark, I'm kind of criticizing church in America, is we have made it so easy to stay so busy with church stuff that we never have time for this. That we're always going to another event or another Bible study or another activity. I think all those things are wonderful. But if we do all those things and we're not doing the thing that Jesus asked us to do, and then we have a convenient excuse called the church to say that's why we're not doing it, there's something wrong with this system, don't you think? There's something wrong. If all you know are other Christians, then you're missing out on being a part of something bigger than you. Because the thing that's bigger than you is people who don't know Jesus. That's the one. That's the opportunity that we have. And look, I'm not trying to beat you up. What I'm trying to do is pull you out of the slumber and say, gang, there is an exciting life of following Jesus. And he's saying, you get to be a part of this. And I want to use you to make a difference in the world. I want to use you to change lives. We get to be a part of that. So again, I'm not trying to guilt you into this. I'm trying to motivate you to say, he's already said, here, the baton is yours. That's your opportunity. So we've got to go to the one, strike up conversations, have people over your house. Go to the one. Secondly, connect the one. Connect the one. This is where he says, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. He's saying, I want you to, as you're working with people, look for opportunities to connect them ultimately to me so that they can identify themselves with Jesus. But to connect them to Jesus so that they can identify themselves with Jesus, we want to connect them. Now, in today's culture, people are very skeptical about this whole thing. So George Barna is a guy who does a lot of surveys and research on this kind of thing, on how we share our faith and all that. And what he says is that in today's culture, people have to belong somewhere before they believe. It used to be that people would go to a Billy Graham rally or something like that, and thousands of people would come and believe. They would say, I want to believe in Jesus. Now what we're seeing in our culture is a whole bunch of people are saying they need to belong, meaning they need to have friendships first. They need to come to a church, and they might come to a church for months before they ever believe in Jesus. So the people who will sit in church, they will sing songs, they will listen to sermons, but they're not yet followers of Jesus. Because they want to know, is this thing real? Is this faith thing real? It's not just about checking a box that I believe. They have to belong. So connecting them, and this is why we're doing things like a cornhole event. It's not to play cornhole, although we love the game, but it's to connect people with other people who are going to church and saying, hey, we're a little odd, but we're not really odd. We're normal people. We'd love to interact with you. We'd love it if you would come and hang out with us. Again, somebody may need to belong before they're ever going to believe. In fact, they say that the average person hears the gospel message 7 times before they ever respond. So it's not likely, unless they've heard the gospel a bunch of other times, that they're just going to come one Sunday and they're going to respond. So when you invite your friends here for September 10th, I'm going to do my best to present a really clear gospel message and help people understand how they can connect with God. But my biggest thing that I'm going to ask everybody who comes on September 10th to do, I'm only going to ask them to do one thing, and that is come back next week. Because I know that the way our society is, the average person is going to need to keep coming for a while before it's going to click, before they're going to understand it. And I want to give people grace and understanding that, hey, that's cool. That's cool. You wherever you are in your journey, you're welcome here. So ultimately, we want to connect them to a family, to a community of people, us here, ultimately to connect them to Jesus. And then third way to make a difference is teach a better way to live. And this one, again, a little convicting because one of the things we've got to wrestle with is, do we have a better way to live? Do you have something to offer? When you think about your life, and I'm sorry if you're here and you're kind of checking out faith, I'm speaking right now primarily to Christians, people who have been followers of Jesus or maybe have been followers of Jesus for a long time. What I want to ask you, if you're a Christian here today, is do you have something to offer? Do you have a hope that the rest of the world doesn't have? Is that clear when people meet you? It's not that you're talking about Jesus all the time, but there's just a life and a hope and a purpose and meaning that people who follow Jesus have access to. And so people should be able to at least pick up on that. There's something different. Something different. When I was in high school, I worked at Burger King. Yes, that's right. I'm excited. You too. If you work at Burger King, you could end up being a pastor. And I remember my manager, completely non-Christian guy, cussed up a storm all day long, right? And he came to me I'm a high school kid. I'm 16, 17 years old. And he says, Jason, are there any more people like you who you could get to come work here? That was the best way he could describe it. He didn't know. I'm like, well, I'm a Christian. The reason I'm punching in only when I'm going to start working, and the reason I'm not stealing extra McNuggets, or not McNuggets, tenders that Burger King had, right? And the reason I'm working hard and I'm working with integrity is because of my faith. I don't work for you, I actually work for Jesus. It says in Colossians 3 that whatever you do in word or speech, do it all to the glory of God. So I am flipping burgers at Burger King to the glory of God. So he said, hey, do you know anybody else like you? That's the best way he could describe it. And I guarantee you, when you and I are living out our faith, the places you work are going to say, man, I need to hire more Christians because I got a Christian working for me. And they are the hardest workers, and they have the most integrity, and they are the most passionate about what they do. I want to hire more Christians. And you might even have people who will say, I don't believe in this Christian thing, but I want my daughter to marry one. I may not believe in this whole Jesus thing, but I want my son to find a wife like that is one. Because if we were doing our job and living out the way that God's called us to live, that's the attractiveness in it, isn't it? Say there's something better, there's something different about the way Christians live. There's a hope, there's a purpose, there's a joy that they live with, but they're also real. They deal with the same garbage that the rest of us deal with, but there's just something different about them. And then you get the opportunity to say, hey, if you ever want to know what that difference is, I'd love to share it with you. Again, not banging anybody over the head with the Bible, just looking for an opportunity to say, hey, if you want to know, why don't you come with me on Sunday? You'll hear a little bit about why my life is so different. See, what Jesus was saying was teach them to obey everything I've commanded you. He said, I made you to operate. I made humanity to operate in a certain way. And humanity has gotten so far off track from that he says, now I need believers who understand what it means to live as humans. As the way humans were intended to live, I need you to take somebody on your arm and say, hey, let me walk with you. Oh, watch out for that. Don't step in that right there. Okay, walk over here. Okay, yep. I'm going to just show you the way. I want to show you a different way, and I'm going to do it with you so you don't have to feel like you're alone. You don't have to try to figure it out on your own. I want to teach you a way to live. So here's our big idea. I want to invite you as followers of Jesus to pursue God's ultimate win. And what I mean by that is, what's on your scorecard? What's on your scorecard? When you leave this place, what goes on your scorecard of whether today was a good Sunday or not? Music was good. Zach continues to change his hairstyle and facial hair. Check. Right? Was the preacher, did he keep it within 35 minutes? Nope, fail. All right? How was the coffee today? I think there was a new gal back there. I don't know. Did she know how to make it or not? Check. Right? That's our scorecard. And what I want to challenge you is to say, there needs to be a different scorecard. When you go through your week, how do you determine whether it was a good week or not? Everybody always asks you, right? How was your week? How do you know how to answer somebody? You have a scorecard right now that defines whether or not you had a good week. And there's a number of things that if you could check those, I didn't get in a fight with my wife this week. I didn't have this problem. I didn't, right? And a lot of these things, this is your scorecard to determine whether you have a good week. What I want to challenge you is that what we are in right now in society is a life and death mission. And we need to rethink, maybe throw out the old scorecard for what makes a good church service and what makes a good week. It's not about getting people to church events. It's not about doing this thing, doing that thing. It's about a rescue mission to get our people home. And what Jesus is saying to you and to me today is that I don't want to just be the guy who did great things thousands of years ago. I want to be the God who does great things right now. And I want to use you to be a part of that. I want to give you not just a front row seat, I want to hand you the baton and say, you get to be a part of that. You get to be a part of that. And I know you're going to be scared, but I'm going to be with you every step of the way. So what's on your scorecard? What does it mean for us to actually do what Jesus called us to do? Maybe what we do is we start saying, Sunday scorecard has nothing to do with Zach's hairstyle and nothing to do with the music and nothing to do with the preaching, but it has to do with, did I show up ready to hear from God? Check. Did I come looking for somebody that I don't know that I could love on, care for, get to know their name, say hello, make them feel welcome, because I know that they're going to have to belong here for quite a while before they're ever going to believe in Jesus. So I want to make people feel like $1 million when they show up here. So my scorecard is, if I didn't meet anybody new today, I don't get a check mark on that one, because my scorecard is about being who Jesus called me to be. And this week, if I don't get an opportunity this week to talk to somebody who's my one, who doesn't know Jesus, that's not a good week. If I didn't see God move, if I didn't expect God to move in somebody's life, in some situation, in some opportunity I have, then it's not a great week for me. I missed out. I missed out on what God wanted to do this week. I think I missed some ways that God was at work. I didn't see him because I got so busy in my own world that I missed out. I got so selfish. I was thinking about me and my comfort. I missed out on what God was doing. What I want to challenge you to do is change your scorecard and pursue God's ultimate win, because I think it's a lot different than what Christians would define as a win. And so it's time for us to say, what is God's win? And I'll tell you, Jesus' mission is about two things. It's about people and it's about forever. It's about people and it's about forever, meaning it's not about stuff and it's not about the temporary right now. It's about eternity and it's about who's going to be there in eternity. And you and I get an opportunity to be a part of that. Gang, I am so passionate about this, and I'll tell you why. Because I'm not doing it either. Not to the level I should be. This is hard for me. I have a hard time going up to people I don't know, trying to build a friendship, trying to get things moving. That's difficult for me. So just because you hear me rah-rahing up here, I'm kind of trying to fire myself up as much as I'm trying to fire you up. Because I don't know what to do with verses like this. I've read them my whole life as a churchgoer. But I just thought, don't preach about those. Everybody will be fine. But I'm like, it's Jesus' Great Commission. We don't get a pass. That's plan A. We are plan A. And there is no plan B. God's not like, well, hey, if you guys fail, I'll send the angels in. We'll take care of this for you. Don't worry. He's like, no, you're plan A. I don't have a plan B. You get to be a part of it.